everyone! Today is Wednesday, so I'm here to do my Top 5 Wednesday. Don't mind my cat. She found a new neighbor cat who she is now fascinated with, so she's up there wagging her tail. The topic for today are the top 5 novels that I have devoured. Coming in at number 5 for this week's list is, no surprise, my Sailor Moon collection. Isn't it beautiful? It's beautiful. It's looking so much more beautiful every time I add a book to it. And it is growing. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger as I read through this series. Now, I have explained this before in multiple videos that I am absolutely obsessed at the moment with this series and I'm reading it non-stop, and I have actually kind of taken a bit of a breather to slow down and just enjoy them because I don't want them to end, and if I read them really fast they're going to end really fast, and so yeah. But I love these. If you're looking for kind of a light, relaxed, fun, kind of silly sort of anime, I would definitely recommend these ones. They are great, they're a classic, anyone should read them. So coming in at number 4 on my list today is Water for Elephants by Sarah Gruen. I have the movie edition of this novel, which I don't like very much, but at the time it was only, these movie editions are 10 bucks Canadian, so they're really cheap. And at the time, yeah, that was what I was looking for, was just a cheap book to buy and read. And so I picked up this one. And ever since I read this, I have been the biggest fan of Water for Elephants. I love the movie. I don't even mind Robert Pattinson in it. It wasn't a big deal for me. Love Reese Witherspoon. She's awesome in everything she does. But anyways, the book is just fantastic. I've forever been looking for a circus novel that can compare with this, and I haven't been able to find anything yet that's similar to this. So if you know of any kind of circus related novels that have sort of a love story like this in them, I would love to hear your recommendations because forever searching for this book. Number 3 on this week's list is Love in the Time of Cholera by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. Now, I don't own a copy of this book, so I can't show it to you, but it is a fantastic read. It is so good. I loved it. I loved it. I read it nonstop. I didn't put it down. I carried it everywhere with me while I was reading it. It was actually one of the more heavy novels that I got into when I started reading more adult fiction. A lot. It's very poetic, it's very inspiring, it's very beautiful writing. Gabriel Garcia Marquez has the most beautiful writing I think that I've ever read, and he's just fantastic. A lot of his stories, like 100 Years of Solitude that he wrote, have a lot of characters in them and they start to get a little complex, but I find that when I'm reading books like that, I did the same with Love in the Time of Cholera, I did the same with Count of Monte Cristo. If you write down a list of the characters and who they're related to and like what they're famous for or whatever in the book, then you can kind of enjoy the reading experience better and not always be so confused over who they're talking about. But that's just a tip for reading Gabriela Marquez. But yeah, I love the book. I love the plot. I love the story. It just transported me to a new world that I adored and didn't want to leave, and it made me fall in love with historical fictions as well. It kind of sent me on a bit of a historical fiction run. I haven't read it for a while. I read it a while ago, but it is definitely something that has always stayed in my top favorite books. I have to redo this chalkboard every 5 minutes because my cat climbs up there. Excuse me. So now that half of my chalkboard is erased thanks to my cat, we will move on to my number 2 choice in this week's list, which is probably in a lot of people's top list for this week, but it is The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. When I picked up this book, I did literally not put it down until I was done. I started reading it at about maybe 3 o'clock in the afternoon and finished at like 2 in the morning, and yeah, just powered through it. cried, probably from the middle page all the way to the end. I just bawled my eyes out. And it was beautiful. The writing is beautiful. The story was so engaging and so captivating and so beautiful. And I just adore John Green and everything he does and his books, and just, yeah, this is great. I'm sure you've read it, but if you haven't, read it, because it is one of the best, and it's short, so you can do it. I know you can do it. Go do it now. Number 1 on the list of my top 5 books that I devoured is my favorite book of all time, Memoirs of a Geisha by Arthur Golden. Memoirs of a Geisha is by far my favorite novel that I have ever read. I picked it up on a whim in a library one day, and since then I have called it my favorite novel. I have sort of a bit of like a love for ancient Japanese, Chinese culture and traditions and things revolving around that. The idea of the geisha just captivated me and opened up my eyes to a new world that I, didn't really know much about. I knew it existed, but I didn't really know much about it. And, the way that he wrote this novel just made being a geisha seem like more than what a lot of people see it as. Golden was really able to write in such a way that carried me back in time and to her world, and was really able to kind of relate to this culture that I knew absolutely nothing about and that I was just learning about, and I became engaged and just enthralled and so excited to learn, excited to just get to know her and get to know the kind of person she was becoming and figure out who she would become. Always exciting to explore worlds that you wouldn't have explored otherwise through a book, and I think that's why a lot of people really love reading fantasy and getting into fantasy. But that is another charm of historical fiction, being able to live in a world that you otherwise would not have been able to experience. And I did that with this book, and for the couple days that I was reading it, I lived in this book, and I lived in this world, and I cried when she cried, I laughed when she laughed, and I felt every single emotion that this book was trying to portray. So that concludes this week's top 5. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye! Dinah, you are naughty. Get down. Thanks for ruining my chalkboard. Thank you. Look. Why you do that?